Have you ever sat down with your first cup of coffee for the day? Maybe it's before anyone else in the house is up, before anything has technically even happened, and noticed that your heart was already racing. Really, for no reason that you can think of. There's not been any kind of meltdown, no fight, no school email that you forgot to answer. You have not really done anything hard yet for the day, and your body is still already stressed out. Your shoulders are up by your ears, your jaw is tight, and your body just feels tense. I want to talk about that this week because for a lot of us, what we've been calling, my nervous system is broken might actually be part of what contributing to it is a small mismatch between when we drink our coffee and what is in our body when we drink it. Most of us have been chalking up this revved up feeling to motherhood, chronic illness, or just being who we are. And sometimes it is some of those things, but it can also be something a lot smaller than that and a lot easier to fix. And that's what we're going to get into today. So let's get started.
Welcome to Chronic Illness Moms. If you're more than just a tired mom, I'm talking trying to make it through the day without crashing by noon while raising neurodivergent kids, you're not alone. I'm Ashley, a wife, mom, and certified health coach. I have lived with autoimmune disease and flare-ups that made everyday life feel harder than it should. After years of pushing through and burning out, I learned how much stress, poor sleep, and nervous system overload were driving my symptoms. Everything changed when I started building small, realistic habits that actually supported my body instead of fighting it. In this podcast, you'll learn simple habits that help you to feel better. So pop in your earbuds and take a break from the chaos. It's you time.
I have had seasons where I just felt absolutely exhausted by 9 a.m. Nothing was technically wrong, the kids were fine, nobody was in a crisis, but I would just be sitting on the couch with my coffee. And by the time I would actually get up to start the day, I felt like I'd already run an emotional marathon. I was irritable. I felt like my patience was super thin, maybe even over the smallest things, a kid not liking a shirt or a sock that wasn't right, milk on the counter. And one morning, I caught myself standing in the kitchen with my cup of iced coffee, and I realized I had been drinking coffee first thing in the morning every single day, before food, before water, sometimes before I really had even sat down. And honestly, that is what this episode is going to talk about. Not this fancy new protocol, just me catching one small thing that my body had been struggling with and a way that I could change that. So we're going to start today talking about that 3-part mini series on caffeine. We're going to talk about today how it affects stress. Next week, we'll be talking about how it affects sleep. And then the third episode will be how it affects your energy levels. Now, I want to say up front, I am very much a pro coffee person in this house. I do drink either half calf or decaf personally because I have just figured out that is what works best for me. I cannot tolerate a lot of caffeine. I did this on my own personal journey where I did completely cut out caffeine for a season, because I was in very, very chronic stress state and I needed to support my body as best as possible. But what I want to tell you up front is this is not a quit coffee episode. It is something I did for a season and it did help me. But I know a lot of us are not there yet. We feel like we're honestly surviving off of caffeine. And so I'm not going to tell you to quit caffeine completely. I am going to tell you some intentional ways that you can be smarter about when you consume caffeine so that it has the least harmful impact on your stress, sleep, and also your energy levels. This is not going to be a, swap caffeine out for matcha or chicory root or, do a warm water with lemon episode. This is not what this is about. I know you're already exhausted and me telling you give up the one thing that is helping your morning is not going to be helpful for you. It really is the thing that makes you feel like, okay, there's no way. I'm just going to tune out of this episode. So what we're talking about today is not that. It is something different. What we're going to dig into today is why caffeine doesn't just wake you up, why it also can really hit a depleted nervous system harder than you might think it would. And then we're going to talk about one specific change that is going to cost you nothing at all and tends to take the edge off of that irritability or exhaustion that you might be feeling really for the rest of the day. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is caffeine does not just wake you up. It does actually rev up your stress response. So here's the thing that most of us don't realize. Those same hormones that your body releases when something stressful happens, like cortisol and adrenaline, are the hormones that caffeine can increase as well. So when you have your morning coffee, your nervous system is getting a small dose of that signal of, hey, be on alert, alongside with obviously boosting your alertness. That's why you feel more alert. So for a body that is already running low, chronic illness, broken sleep, the emotional weight of caregiving, that extra push can actually push your nervous system into a more reactive state before anything has even happened in your day. That's why one of the reasons why I had to really cut back on caffeine is because what I realized when I cut it out completely was it was actually making me feel anxious, and I was feeling jittery, but because I was consuming it so frequently because I thought I needed it to get by, I did not realize that it was doing that. And that's what we have to look at. So when we're not being intentional about how we're consuming caffeine, then it can make you feel more anxious. You can feel like you're getting overwhelmed faster. You might be snapping at the kids for something that wouldn't have bothered you otherwise. And it's not that there's something wrong with you. This is not a you problem, as in like there's not a fault with you. It's not a defect. It's just that your body got that extra dose of, hey, high alert here before you even ate breakfast. So keep in mind, it's not that coffee is bad, but being intentional with how you drink it really does matter. Okay, so what does that look like? How should we drink it? It's not just that you're drinking coffee. If you're drinking any kind of caffeine, whether it's coffee or something else, on an empty stomach. When caffeine is hitting that empty stomach, the alertness, the cortisol bump, the increased heart rate, all of that, it runs through your body without a buffer. So that exact mechanism is debated in research. Okay, does it matter if you do or don't have an empty stomach when you're consuming caffeine? So there's still plenty that we don't know. But what I have personally experienced and what I've heard from others is that a lot of times, if you have a cup of coffee one morning with nothing on your stomach, it lands completely different in your body than if you had a cup of coffee after you ate breakfast. For someone who has a really well-regulated nervous system, they're not dealing with chronic symptoms, a body that's well rested, drinking coffee on an empty stomach might be okay. But for an exhausted mom whose body is already constantly in stress mode by default, it's like throwing dry kindling on a fire that was already burning. So instead of just getting up in the morning and first thing drinking that cup of coffee, having that caffeine, eat something first, even if it's something small. And then you get to focus on your coffee. Now, I will say, whenever I'm focusing on eating something first in the morning, I am always focusing on protein personally. It helps to keep my blood sugar stable. It helps to really set me up for success the rest of the day. So if we can have something in our stomach before consuming caffeine, it can land a little bit softer. It's not going to have such a hard hit on your nervous system. You're going to have a bit of a steadier morning, less of that jittery feeling you might have. You might still have the alertness, but with less of a cost to your nervous system. Okay, so here's what I want you guys to do. And this is something, we do this really with everything in the show. It's something that I want you to build into your morning that's already happening. So we're not adding a bunch of new habits. We're figuring out how can I add and change the things I'm already doing to make more impact to help me to feel like myself again. So for the next 3 days, if you are the type of person who gets up in the morning and typically you have coffee first thing, I want you to eat something before you have that coffee. It doesn't have to be a full breakfast, but I personally recommend focusing on protein. So maybe it's eggs, maybe it's bacon or sausage, maybe it's leftovers from the night before. Whatever it is that is realistic for the morning that you actually have, then have your coffee. Again, we're not adding any kind of a habit because you were already going to be eating breakfast and you were already going to be drinking coffee. We're just going to change the order that we do these. We're not prescribing or subscribing to some kind of new wellness protocol. We're not completely rehauling your life. You're just putting something in your stomach before you have caffeine. That's it. So then I want you to watch for the small stuff. After a couple mornings of doing this, how do you feel? Do you feel a little bit more even tempered? Do you notice, okay, I'm not feeling as on edge or as jittery. Maybe it's that you're thinking, okay, a kid had a moment and I didn't snap about it. I wasn't feeling irritable. I felt more in control. I felt like I could actually respond instead of reacting to them. So that is what I want you to focus on this week. And then I want you to come over to the Facebook group and share with us, what did you eat? What was it that you had before you drank your coffee? Whatever it may be, come over and share with us. No judgment for whatever it is you chose to eat. But share with us. We need to hear from each other. What are these small experiments that you're doing? And have you tried it? What did you notice when you did try it? That's how the rest of us can be encouraged to know that it is worth trying as well. All right, friends, that is all for this episode. Super simple, super short and to the point. I want you to eat something before you have your coffee or your caffeine in the morning and see what your body does the rest of the day. For the next episode, which is going to be on Tuesday, I am going to be sharing about a change to my caffeine habits that I made that surprised even me more than the one I just shared with you. If you have ever laid in bed, completely exhausted, and yet wide awake at the same time, then that is the episode that you are going to want to listen to. I'll see you guys back next time.
Hey friend, I hope you found today's episode helpful. If you did, would you take a minute to share it with another mom who's struggling with chronic symptoms? And leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It means the world to me to know this podcast is making a difference for you. All right, it's time for me to go tackle those snack requests, and remember that a short walk, even if the kids turn it into a race, still counts as self-care. Keep chasing those little wins. Even when it feels messy, you're making progress. The information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine. I'm not a doctor, and this podcast is not intended to treat or diagnose any condition. You're the expert on your body. Listen to it and reach out to a trusted provider for support.